So yeah, isolation has been going on for I don't know how long now. Really starting to feel the boredom kicking in a bit. Parts, you order them, they show up about 3 weeks later at this rate. Can't really blame that either, I guess. So I've talked about creating a video, not a vlog, because I just simply don't have the motivation to constantly do that. But I have always kind of been interested in making a video, so I do get quite a few questions about my Ford Sierra, which I am currently building, and probably now is as good a time as any to, I guess, take you around that car and show it to you. So this is how it looks at the minute, and it looks, so it's been probably 3.5 years since I even used a selfie stick, so I feel like a complete nonce doing this at the minute, and probably look like one anyway, but oh well. Yeah, the car behind me that we have here started off in life as a Ford Sierra Sapphire LXi, which I think was one above the poverty spec. Oh, that's just off the top of my head. I could be totally wrong. The LXi is standard, come with the 2-litre twin cam engine, along with that MT75 box, open diff, drum brakes at the rear. Yep, drum brakes. So it was probably at the time a quick enough car, and fun enough as well, I'm sure. It kind of wasn't really for me, although the twin cam engine these days is actually very desirable for people both in the north and the south of Ireland. The engines go for serious money nowadays for literally 125 horsepower Ford engine, but that's kind of what happens when things have a cult following. We see the same with the 4 AGEs, the twin cam Corolla engine as well, so it's just what happens over time. Kinda always liked Sierras from I was 5. From I saw one spit flames doing a skid at the road outside my house, and I was like, that's cool, I like that. Kind of led to this financial mistake that I have beside me now. But anyway, I did actually plan on just keeping the car as a 2-litre twin cam Cosworth rep, because that's what everybody else does, and I don't mean that in a sheep kind of way. It's just, it's a nice style, and I like it as well. Like, at the end of the day, a Cosworth kit at Sierra on Escort Cosworth wheels still looks pretty damn good. But I guess what happened with me was, it was actually, I drove my mate's S15 Sylvia, and I just remember driving it, and I was like, this is class. I need a turbo in my life. But I didn't want to get rid of the Sierra because, yeah, I like them. And then I thought, well, I could put an SR20 in the Sierra. It's been done. I know it's been done, so it can work. And that's when I started looking into options, and I happened to say to a friend of mine, Leo, in a group chat, that I was thinking of SR20. And it was, well, they're called SR20 Depth for a reason. And I was like, fair point, there are a lot of memes. He was like, would you ever consider a Saab engine? Because he's Swedish, you know, so big up the Saabs and all that. And I was like, Saab? What? And he was like, yeah. So, yeah, went and started doing my research. And I was like, hold on. This is a pretty strong engine for a 2-litre. The only problem, of course, was that it came out of a front-wheel drive car, so the engine was mounted differently, so it would have taken a lot more customization to make fit than an SR20, because, you know, the time you consider engine mounts, sump, even top mounting the turbo, etc., it just would lead into a lot of customization work. But at the time, all I was thinking about was how cheap the engines were and how much power I could get out of them. And when I first started, I was saying to myself, I'm only going to go for standard power. I'm just going to put the standard engine in, use a standard turbo, just keep it low horsepower for now, get my feet in the ground. That went well. So, yeah, to start off, you may have noticed that I only appear to have what seems to be half of the engine ancillaries. There's a very good reason for that. My turbo's lying over there. We'll get to that in a minute. So we'll start off with the cold air side and in general the braking as well, which you can see over here. So actually we'll start with the braking. This is a Granada Cosworth servo. It's an electrical driven vacuum system as opposed to just your normal brake servo. And the reason I have that is because a mate slash fabricator, Stephen Broderick, he has a drift car Sierra. It's pretty awesome actually. I think he has a YouTube channel as well. He makes a loom which does away with the ABS, and as soon as you hit the brake pedal, bang, brakes immediately. I have an oversized inlet, typical inlet on the Saab inlet manifold is 2-inch. I am running a 3-inch and then had a custom setup made. Unfortunately I can't TIG weld, so I got Simon at Limitless Garage to make me a setup, and doesn't disappoint. It's pretty cool looking and works well with the car. Going into a normal Saab 9.3 inlet manifold, I was told there's no point or no merit in going for anything bigger or better than this because of the way it comes in. It's even flow. So there's people have went ahead and tried to make different manifolds, but for the expense you're not getting much extra horsepower out of it, so I've just kept it. I will be the first to admit it's not the nicest looking setup. I think once they do away with the idle control valve, which is here, it'll look a lot better, but I kind of just want to get it running right first before I start fiddling about with this sort of stuff. I have AN fittings welded onto my fuel rail. They're fed by an AEM 340 pump, in-tank pump. At the minute, as you can see, my radiator is very close to my engine, well the fans are, and that's just simply because I don't have a gearbox at the minute, and there is a good reason for that. So the engine is kind of sitting tilted forward. When the gearbox is in, the whole thing will come back and we will have a gap. Not much of a gap, but a gap nonetheless. On this side here we have the absence of a turbo, and yeah, reason for that being is I wanted a tubular setup, so now was the perfect time to get that done. This is my air intake for the turbo. This would normally be sitting here, but it's kind of relocated to thin air at the minute. On this side, so we have, you can see now my engine mounts. They're not pretty, but they are welded very, very heavy, so they should work. I am using Sapphire wishbone mounts here, which I then put Powerflex bushings in, so that should stiffen that up. I got the plates to actually mount onto the engine from Will Gamble. He has a B204 in his Mark II Escort, so practice what you preach. If it works, well, if it works for him, it should work for me. Had to do an oil filter relocation. Reason being, whenever you run a normal oil filter on a Saab engine, with front wheel drive that's not a problem because it sits up here, but on rear wheel drive it fouls the power steering rack, it fouls your sump, it just gets in the way of everything. The drain here, for example, it just sort of gets in the way. So what I've done is got myself a relocation plate, run this. This then goes to a oil temperature gauge inside the car, up through into my oil filter, which I then run through a thermoplate into the oil cooler, which is on a bracket that I've also made for the front mount intercooler. Back down in through the car, through this, not in through the car, through this, which then goes back into the car, and this is for an oil pressure switch. And the reason why I have done that on the return line is because this is straight out of the pump. You're more likely to get good pressure here. I want to make sure that I still have good pressure on this side. So that's just kind of, for me, a bit of a safety feature. And then we have also the feed to my non-existent turbo at the minute. Also have the water lines, so water feed and water return to my turbos. Gearbox wise, literally until today, I was running with an Omega R25 R28. Good enough box. I mean, they're in V6 Omegas. They can hack the abuse, but this car will be just putting out too much horsepower and too much torque, primarily torque, for that gearbox to handle. I think they're rated to 300 Newton meters or something. I've decided that I'm going to upgrade now while we have the time. Same reason the turbo's off. Plan is to go for a BMW ZF box. Guys use them in drift cars. They're known to be a good strong box. The problem I have now is that I have a custom prop shaft, so it's going to need modified. And really I should have just went for the BMW box in the first place. The turbo I've went for is a Holset HX35. Quite a lot of the Saab guys running the bigger power would use these. I wanted to make a bit more use of it, so I got it hybrided out to a HX40 billet compressor wheel, so hopefully that should take a bit more air in and definitely help out there with the power. One of the main reasons why I've changed to go for a tubular manifold was because a log manifold, which I initially had, is better for low down torque, but whenever you need the power up higher up the rev range, it just doesn't allow that, whereas a tubular does. Because that's quite a big turbo kicking in probably higher up the rev range, I kind of want to maintain boost as long as I can, and that was the reason for it. Along with the turbo, I've also went for an external wastegate, a precision 45mm, and to get all that power and exhaust gas away as smoothly as I can, I've went for a 3-inch downpipe, the whole way, 3-inch exhaust straight through. I mean, it is a straight pipe the whole way to the back, and also heat wrapped it. And if anybody's ever heat wrapped anything, they will know how horrible this stuff is on your hands. I actually run an Astra power steering system in this car. Reason being was that the original power steering pump on a Saab engine goes here, but when you have a turbo, it kind of just got in the way. So I got this bracket made, which just relocates and you put it on. Plus the Astra system you can run off a relay and all, so I just have it wired onto the ignition. And yeah, it actually works quite well. I've had it wired up and plumbed up, sorted a couple of leaks, minor detail, and had it turning, and yeah, it seems to go quite smoothly. The other one I have is I've relocated my expansion tank up to here as well. Tried to keep it as the highest point of the car. That shouldn't be there. Tried to keep it at the highest point, so to avoid airlocks. I do have a slight concern about my turbo and this particular line here. I just kind of need to measure it out and make sure. If not, at the minute I have this running through my wing because, you know, trying to create a neat bay and all that. But if I have to raise this up, then obviously I will, and that's why I haven't got a mount created for it yet. Again, I just want to see how it looks and how it performs before I start making a mount to then have to basically cut it up and do it again. The rear of the car isn't anything really to write home about. It's just standard Sierra RS Cosworth rear bumper. I do, however, run shotgun tips, which is done by Simon, same guy that did my inlet and my exhaust. And then I'm also running 10-inch wide stepped Raguna ZZY ZX wheels. Thank God for Radnock dishes, because yeah, with the amount of cutting and welding and grinding I do, and just having these wheels in the car, they'll polish up perfectly, which is great for someone like me. Arches have had a bit of a kicking with the grinder too to make it fit. I can make the wheels fit on this side, but on the other side there's going to need to be some work done. Inside the car is really nothing to write home about for now, although I do love these seats. These came out of Evo 7, and then I got them retrimmed a couple of years ago to match the colour of the car, so that's Alcantara. And then I used to run Takata harnesses, but I've went for these OMPs because A, they were a steel, B, they're a bit more period looking Ford. The Takatas are cool, scene points and all that, but they don't really, I don't think they looked correct in an old Ford. Bottom half of the dash is flocked. I do want to get the top half flocked as well, because it's a bit of a stupid looking grey colour, which I'm not that fond of at the minute. But I guess that's just something for now. I can't really take the dash anywhere as it stands because of, you know, isolation and all that. We have here my hydraulic handbrake as well, and then my switches for fuel pump, boost, and we'll explain the other one in a minute. Steering wheel, that side of the car is still real untidy. So if you wonder, yeah, as I said, it's a bit of a mess in here, and it was worse. I have cleaned it. If you wonder why I'm running 10-inch wide fancy Fitment wheels on a Ford, well, this is the reason why. So I've always kind of been a stancy guy, so I have this switch here. Turn that on, made a little box. Hydraulics. Because the other dream I always wanted to have was kind of build, in my head, what was the perfect car. So that's something with power, something that's stancy, and something that you just love. And in my head, this car combines all three. Now that may not be the opinion of probably 99.999% of people on this planet. Also, I mean, this is kind of one of my favourite points about the car. Big time need a tray for this. It's just sitting here now, but I wanted to get a big, decent sized battery in order to basically try and keep as much going through the car as possible with, you know, the lines running through underneath and then driving hydraulics. I need to make sure there's definitely enough power to start it, which I can safely say I have, as the car has cranked over before. That's basically look into my car at the minute. As you can see, it's definitely still a massive work in progress. I mean, it needs painted big time. Front bumper here kind of sets off because the front mount pushes against the bumper, so that'll need trim back. Yeah, hopefully next time I do a video it'll be me driving out into the yard, or possibly me taking petrol matches to this thing and setting it on fire. Who knows? But yeah, thanks for watching anyway. If you've got through the full video, kudos, I appreciate it. Yeah, be safe and stay at home.